The glass never reaches his lips. 1 second, it's rising toward his mouth, wine catching the candlelight. The next second, it's gone, knocked sideways out of his hand by a woman nobody at this table has bothered to look at all night. It shatters against the marble floor. Every conversation stops at once. 12 of the most powerful people in the city turn their heads toward the sound, then toward the maid standing behind Damien Blackwood's chair, her hand still extended from the strike. Damien stares at the dark stain spreading across the floor where his drink used to be. Then his eyes come up. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" His voice is quiet. That's the part that makes two security men near the wall straighten up. Everyone at this table has learned that Damien Blackwood gets quieter, not louder, right before something goes wrong for whoever he's looking at. Emanuela doesn't step back. "You were about to drink it." That was wine. It wasn't just wine. Nobody breathes. For most of the guests in this room, Emanuela has been furniture for years. She refills glasses. She clears plates. She disappears the moment a conversation turns private. Nobody has ever given her a reason to be looked at twice. Which is exactly why nobody saw this coming, including Vivian Hale, seated 4 chairs down, fork frozen halfway to her plate, watching the one person she never accounted for ruin everything in half a second. Damien looks at the shattered glass, then back at Emanuela. "Explain, now." She tells him what she saw, Vivian's hand drifting near his glass during the toast, small enough to miss unless you were already watching. Vivian's face doesn't move. That stillness is what almost convinces the table she's innocent. Damien's known her 6 years. He knows exactly what her stillness looks like when she's telling the truth. "This isn't it." He raises 2 fingers. Security moves not toward Emanuela, toward Vivian. "Test the glass." If you've ever been the person nobody expects anything from, the one everyone talks over, forgets is even in the room, stay with me, because it's about to get a lot worse for both women at this table, and only one of them is going to survive the next 10 minutes with her freedom intact. Drop a comment right now. Would you have thrown the wine or waited? The glass comes back 12 minutes later. Security doesn't say the results out loud. He leans down and puts them straight into Damien's ear. Whatever he says makes Damien's jaw lock in a way none of the guests have ever seen. Vivian is already standing. "Damien." "Sit down." "I can explain." "Sit down." She doesn't. She turns toward the door instead, and that's the exact second 2 men close in on either side of her, turning a 9-figure dinner into something closer to an arrest. Except the woman being arrested has run Damien Blackwood's entire life for 6 years. She's walked out through the kitchen, not the front hall. He doesn't want his business partners watching this part. Emanuela watches her go. Nobody stops her from watching. Nobody stops her from anything, actually. Because in 90 seconds she's gone from someone nobody notices to someone the entire table is now very carefully avoiding eye contact with. She isn't sure yet which one is worse. Damien finds her again near 1 in the morning. The guests are gone. Staff sent home all except her because he asked her to stay. She's in the small coat room off the kitchen when his footsteps stop in the doorway. Unhurried. That's what makes it worse. "You could have pulled me aside, told security quietly." There wasn't time. There's always time to do things quietly. Not when someone's about to drink poison. He studies her, the way a man studies something he's trying to decide the worth of. "What's your name?" 6 years in this house. First time he's asked. "Emanuela." He nods slowly, filing it away. Vivian's confessing right now, 2 floors down, flat like weather. Every detail except one, who told her to do it. Emanuela's stomach drops. She didn't act alone. He doesn't answer that. Instead, "Why did you save me?" No hesitation. Because it was right, not because I wanted anything. "I know." 2 words, but something behind his eyes shifts, like a man recalculating an assumption he's carried his entire adult life. He turns to leave, stops in the doorway, back still to her. 9 o'clock, my office. Don't wear the uniform. Downstairs, in a windowless room, Vivian is telling security everything except the one thing that matters, who put her up to it, and whether she's the only one involved. If this story already has you leaning forward, hit like before you scroll another inch, because the next part is where everything starts unraveling. 9 the next morning, Emanuela stands outside his office in the only dress she owns that isn't a uniform, feeling more exposed than she has in years. He doesn't make her wait. Sit. She sits. He leans against the front of the desk instead of behind it, arms crossed. Confessions signed, witnessed. He pauses. She says it's because of a contract I signed 2 weeks ago, says it was going to destroy something she'd spent years building, won't say what. You don't believe her. I believe she poisoned my drink. I don't believe it was her idea. His eyes stay on her face. Someone got to her. Someone who knew exactly which parts of her life to threaten to make murder look like her only way out. Emanuela says nothing, not her world. She knows it. He slides a folder across the desk. She doesn't touch it. What is this? A job, any department, training, a salary that would take you 11 years to earn where you are now. His eyes drop to her hand, still on her lap. You saved my life. I don't reward that with charity. I don't want your pity. I know. That's exactly why it's a job, not a check. She picks it up. I don't know anything about your world. Neither did I once. Almost a smile. You'll learn fast or you won't survive it. Most people don't get to choose which. 3 weeks in, Emanuela sits through a conference room argument between 2 lawyers about a shipment, 3 days late out of a port she's never heard of. And she's starting to understand that training here means being thrown straight into open water. She's also starting to notice things nobody trained her to notice. Marcus Aldridge, the CFO, changes the subject every single time the delayed shipment comes up. Not once, every time. And buried in Vivian's confession, in the one copy that landed on her desk uncensored by accident, is a name that was blacked out of every other file in the building. A name still on the payroll. She says nothing. She's already learned that much. In this world, the wrong word to the wrong person doesn't just cost you a job. Damien finds her in the archive room one night, long after the floor has emptied. Surrounded by manifests, she has no clearance to be reading. You're not supposed to have access to those. I know. He doesn't ask her to put them down. That tells her more than anything he could say. What did you find? It's not a delay, it's a pattern. 3 shipments, 4 months, same holding company, same signature. She hesitates. The same name that was blacked out of Vivian's file. He's quiet a long moment. Marcus. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He picks up a manifest, reads it twice, and something in his face shuts down completely, colder than the night of the glass, because this isn't a stranger. Marcus has stood beside him for 11 years, trusted with numbers Damien's never shown his own family. If you're right, he didn't just push Vivian into poisoning me. He's been bleeding this company for months, and the contract I signed 2 weeks ago was about to expose all of it. So he needed you dead before the audit. Or he needed me dead, and the audit was never the real reason. He sets the manifest down. Either way, you just found in 3 weeks what 11 years of trust kept me from seeing. He looks at her differently now. Not gratitude, something else. Be careful, he says quietly. The people who did this to Vivian don't like being found. Are you telling me to stop? I'm telling you the last person who got close to what Marcus wanted buried ended up standing trial for attempted murder. He holds her eyes. I'm not losing the person who saved my life to the same man who almost took it. For the first time since walking into this building, Emanuela isn't sure if the danger is coming from Marcus, or from how much it means when Damien says things like that. 2 nights later, someone breaks into her apartment while she's still at the office. Nothing stolen, nothing broken, except one thing. The folder Damien gave her that first morning, the one she kept in a drawer because part of her still couldn't believe it was real, is gone. She calls him before she calls the police. He arrives first, moving through her apartment with the quiet focus of a man who's handled break-ins before, just never one aimed at someone he cares about. "Nothing valuable's missing," he says, checking the window latch. "They wanted you to know they could get in." A warning. A warning means Marcus knows you found the manifests. He turns, and for once the calculation in his face slips. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. I'm not going anywhere. I didn't ask you to. You were about to." He doesn't deny it. "You're the only person in that building who's told me the truth without wanting something back. Do you know how rare that is? 11 years, and the person closest to me was stealing from me the entire time. You noticed poison in half a second. That's not the same as noticing everything. It's more than anyone else managed." Neither of them fills the silence that follows, the kind that happens when two people both know something neither has said out loud. Damien breaks it. "Pack a bag. You're staying at the estate until this is over." "Damien." "That's not pity if that's what you're about to say." Softer now. "I'm not protecting an employee. I'm protecting someone I can't afford to lose." If that line just landed for you the way it landed for me writing it, subscribe now, because this story is about to flip everything you think you know about who's really in danger. And tell me in the comments, is he protecting her, or is he already too attached to think straight? The estate feels different lived in instead of cleaned. Emanuela keeps catching herself in hallways she used to walk through with her head down, noticing the house the way she notices everything now. Carefully, a little too late to stop what's already moving. Marcus doesn't wait long. He calls a full board meeting 3 days after the break-in and stands up to announce serious concerns about a new hire with no financial background, suddenly reviewing sensitive shipping records. He doesn't say her name. He doesn't have to. "I think," Marcus says, folding his hands, "we need to ask why someone with zero logistics experience has access the rest of this board doesn't." Damien doesn't raise his voice, never does when it matters most. "She has access because I gave it to her." "With respect, Damien, that's not an answer." "The concern," Damien cuts in, quieter now, "is that you signed off on all 3 rerouted shipments, and you're the only person in this room with a problem with someone looking into them." The room goes still. Marcus's face doesn't crack completely, but something behind his eyes does, recalculating, deciding how much Damien actually knows. "I'd be careful making accusations you can't prove in front of the board." "Not an accusation." Damien's voice drops lower. "A chance to explain it yourself before the forensic accountants I hired last week finish their report." For the first time, Emanuela watches Marcus Aldridge go pale. He stands, buttons his jacket, walks out without another word, which, in a room full of people trained to read power like weather, is as good as a confession. Nobody moves until the door closes. "He's going to run," Emanuela says quietly. "No," Damien's eyes stay on the door. "He's going to do something worse. Make sure if he goes down he takes people with him, starting with you." That night, once the house has gone quiet, Damien finds her on the terrace, staring at the dark garden below. Neither of them speaks for a while. "You didn't have to defend me in there," she finally says. "You could have let the board decide." "I could have. I didn't want to." "Why not?" He turns, and there's none of the calculation left in his face. None of the version of him that runs an empire on loyalty, fear, and instinct. "6 weeks ago, you knocked a glass out of my hand and changed how I see every person around me," he says. "You've never once done anything because you wanted something from me. Do you know what that's worth in a life like mine?" "I'm not trying to be worth anything to you." "I know, that's the entire point." Neither of them steps back this time. "This is dangerous," she says. "Not just Marcus, this. Everything about my life is dangerous." "That's not what I meant." "I know that too." 3 days later, the forensic report lands, and it's worse than either of them braced for. Marcus wasn't just skimming shipments. He's been selling information to a rival organization for over a year. Information that put Damien's entire operation at risk long before Vivian ever touched that glass. And there's one more name in the report. A name that drops Emanuela's stomach the second she sees it, because it finally explains the pressure that pushed a loyal assistant of 6 years toward murder instead of confession. Marcus wasn't working alone, and the person helping him has been inside Damien's house even longer than Vivian was. Damien reads it twice, standing perfectly still. When he finally looks up, there's something in his face she hasn't seen before, not anger. Something closer to grief for a version of his life he's about to lose completely. "I need to make calls," he says quietly. "Stay here, don't leave this house until I'm back." "Damien." "Please." First time he said that word to her. "I can't do what happens next if I'm worried about where you are." He's gone before dawn. What happens over the next 48 hours decides whether Marcus Aldridge finally answers for what he's done, or whether the person protecting him gets to him first. 3 days pass, no word. Emanuela spends them the way she's learned to spend uncertainty in this world. Quietly, watching everything, because the one skill nobody had to teach her is noticing what everyone else misses. When Damien finally walks through the door, he looks like a man who's aged 5 years in 72 hours. Marcus is in custody. The rival organization, the leaked information, the quiet operation working to dismantle Damien's empire from the inside, all of it unwound thread by men who don't officially work for anyone. But finishing it cost him something. She sees it the moment he walks in. "It's over," he says. "You don't look like it's over." He doesn't answer right away. He crosses the room and reaches for her hand instead, the first steady thing in his life in 3 days. "The person helping Marcus," he says quietly, "was someone I trusted 15 years, longer than Vivian, longer than almost anyone alive. I'm sorry." "Don't be. I built an empire on people loyal to my money and afraid of my name. You're the only one who was ever loyal to me." He looks at her the way he did that first morning in his office, except nothing calculating in it now. "I don't know how to run this company without wondering who's lying to me. I do know I don't want to run it without you." She doesn't answer right away, and he doesn't fill the silence. Somewhere over 6 weeks, he's learned the things worth waiting for with her are always worth the wait. "I never wanted any of this," she finally says. "The job, the house, any of it. I know. I wanted to do the right thing. That's all it ever was." "I know that too." He steps closer. "That's exactly why this isn't a job offer." He takes a folder from his jacket, smaller than the one from 6 weeks ago. When she opens it, it isn't an employment contract. It's a partnership agreement, her name already printed beside his. "I don't reward loyalty with charity," he says, echoing that first morning. "And I don't build a life with someone I don't trust completely. You're the only person who's ever earned both." Outside, the house that once treated her as invisible sits quiet in the early light. The same house where a maid nobody noticed once knocked a glass out of a billionaire's hand and changed the direction of both their lives without meaning to change anything at all. She signs it. Not because she has to, not because she wants what it gives her. Because for the first time in her life, someone handed her a future and asked nothing in return except that she keep being exactly who she already was. "Now I want to hear from you. Which moment got you first, the glass, the folder, or the terrace? Type it in the comments because I read every single one. If this story pulled you in, hit like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and tell someone who needs to see a story like this today."